Hey everyone, I'm Mike with the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and I'm inside our Public Archaeology Lab because I wanted to share an artifact that we have in one of our collections that's really cool. And so the artifact I wanted to show you is this little piece right here. This is a piece of pottery. This is a broken piece, probably from a bowl or a plate, and we know that this is a Native American piece of pottery based on the way it's made, and it probably dates back between 500 to even a couple thousand years ago. But what's really unique about this particular pottery piece is the design that we actually see in it. If we look at it up closely, we'll see that there's an impression in the clay. And so basically when this clay was wet, a lot of the times different indigenous groups would put different types of designs on it, and they would use different tools to make those designs with. In this case, it's really unique because the impression was made with a piece of fabric. And that's really cool for archaeologists but unfortunately a lot of that times that sort of material, organic material, made out of natural fibers, just doesn't survive in the archaeological record. So anytime we find pieces of pottery with fabric impressions, it can tell us a little bit about what types of fabrics those people had. Another great thing about pottery like this, when the clay was wet, different indigenous groups would have added what's called temper to the clay. And basically it's just adding different substances to the wet clay to make it a little bit easier to work and also to help it out in the actual firing process. Adding the different materials to that would make it stronger and prevent it from exploding as that heat would expand and contract the pot. We know in this area that different indigenous people often use crushed up shell, or in some cases, especially around this area, they use sand. And the sand that we have here in Northwest Florida is actually quartz, and that's why our beaches are white. It's crushed quartz. And if you look at this very closely, you'll see a couple of those grains of those quartz crystal sand. And so that's how we know that this was sand tempered and probably produced locally. But this is a really interesting artifact and a great example of what we can learn by looking very closely up at artifacts.